Hi, I'm Nargis Anzali. I'm a student representative with the ACSD School Board, and I'm here today with Jason Chance, who is running for a seat on the school board. Hi.
Hi, Nargis.
All right, so the first question is just generally about you. So some reasons why you're running and what in your professional or personal background do you think really equips you for this seat on the school board?
Okay. Well, I grew up in rural Vermont, in East Wallingford, Vermont. Actually, a town about the size of Ripton, 500 plus people or so. Grew up in the middle of nowhere, and for the first 6 years or so, we didn't have electricity at my house. We were completely off the grid. And it was the type of thing where, on a good day, it could take you 20, 25 minutes to get to school. On a bad day, it could take you 30 or 40 minutes to get to school. And you come down the mountain, your car is covered with snow, and you look around, and there's no other cars covered with snow. And you're like, oh man. So very similar to Ripton in that sense. And then ended up going to Mill River Union High School, which at the time was a middle and high school, 7 through 12, all in one building. So I definitely know what it's like to live and grow up in a rural school district in Vermont. And that, it shaped me tremendously and gave me a great appreciation for our natural world and, just becoming a lifelong learner. So that is huge. So I know the benefits of that education in Vermont. More specifically to ACSD, I've got a 12-year-old at MUMS and a 17-year-old at MUHS, and they've both been in the ACSD school district since they were in kindergarten. And so for the last 11 years, I've been very heavily vested in their education, and I've seen them grow. So I've been thinking about running for the school board for a long time. Now, like where I am personally and professionally, I think is a good time with one hopefully going off to college, knock on wood. And then, I have the time to invest and commit to the school board. In terms of what I bring, I've been working in information technology for like the last 20 years. And what I do is I implement business systems, software systems for businesses to help them improve their processes and their, throughput, warehouse management, whatever it is, right? To do that, you have to take a diverse group of stakeholders, people who want to increase profitability, people who want to, increase sales, all this stuff. And you got to get them all together and you got to get them all rowing in the same direction, right? And that takes a lot of active listening. It takes a lot of coordinated communication, and it takes a lot of problem solving, right? And you got to be creative in that. And so I think those are the types of things I can bring to the board, along with my perspective as a former student and a current parent in ACSD.
Yeah, and I think so recently we've been seeing a lot about the different interests of people within the community, including like the recent decision to make the closure of elementary schools contingent on a supermajority of board members and a majority of the district voters. And so I was just wondering, like, your opinion on that, of just how it's worked so far and the decision that was made.
Yeah, so I actually attended the February 13th meeting where that decision was voted on. I am comfortable with the decision. I think it was a good compromise of all the options on the table, town vote versus district vote versus leaving it as is. Having a district-wide vote to close the school, I think, was a good compromise. What I was a little concerned about at the meeting was, the charter, the ad hoc group that did all the charter research to come up with a language, has been working for months and months and months, like developing and refining this language, doing a lot of research, and they came up with these very distinct, well-worded, well-researched options. And then during the meeting, several board members were willing to just significantly alter the language of those proposals on the fly, which has the effect basically of cutting out any public involvement or commentary or feedback on those changes that they're going to make in the meeting. I understand that's part of the democratic process and it's all well and good, but it was a little concerning that the public wouldn't have any recourse in terms of providing feedback prior to making those significant decisions. So to sum it up, I would say satisfied with the decision, comfortable with it. But I would hope that the board would be more conscious of decisions that they're going to make that basically negate or prevent any public feedback.
Right. And I know you mentioned that you have a son in the high school, which kind of segues us nicely to the next question. We as a district made a really big change with that shift to IB. And so the next question is whether you believe that the IB program is working for ACSD.
Yeah, so since I've had someone in ACSD for 11 years, had many years pre-IB, and have been here for the transition, and now I've got a senior who's going to graduate as a full diploma candidate, hopefully. Yeah, and I think so. I think there's a lot of great things about IB. The self-guided learning. You can do a sophomore project and pick your own topic, and you can choose that sort of thing. I think that's great. Having second language acquisition as part of the curriculum, I think, is terrific for most kids. And I think having like a rigorous curriculum that is vetted from the outside, and there's external checks and balances and stuff, I think that is super useful and gives teachers feedback throughout the process. There are some things that are not great about IB, and it's hard to say whether it's IB specifically or perhaps how we've implemented IB. Right? We've been implementing IB for 6-ish years. 3 of those have been pandemic affected, right? So you can't separate the two in terms of the impact of that implementation. So there's definitely some things that are not great about IB. The fact that you're locked into 2-year classes in 11th and 12th grade, right? So now it becomes much harder to swing a course at the Career Center, take a course at the college, like to get exposure to other stuff, right? That just stuff becomes much more difficult. And then you got to worry about the resources and the teachers that are assigned to teach those 2-year classes, because those are teachers that can't then teach something else, right? So I think we have to look and have an open and honest discussion. What can we change? Are there things that we can keep that we like about IB, and things that we can change that we don't like, that aren't working well? And at some point, got to decide whether it's the right fit for our district.
Yeah. So another thing that's been taking up some of the discussion at the school board is a recent study that has suggested that it will take at least $100 million to bring all of ACSD's school buildings up to code. How do you think that the district should approach its school repair plan?
Yeah, so there's 9 buildings, and I think only one of them in the study was not like in poor or critical shape, right? So there's clearly been a lot of deferred maintenance. This is something that we've known for years. This has been something that districts have known as part of consolidation. If you're going to consolidate, that's coming. Are you going to invest a lot of money in your school when a unified district in a year or two can help take on that maintenance burden? So and that's across the district, there are schools and buildings with a lot of needs. I don't think we're going to be able to take a $100 million bite all at once. We're going to have to take it in phases. There are some immediate things, if you look at that report, that absolutely have to be fixed just for safety, right? Like emergency lighting and fire alarm systems that aren't up to code, right? Like we got to fix that stuff. Then there's other things that are not urgent but aren't great, like worn floors that are tripping hazards, crumbling walls, and buildings that need repair, and some leaking roofs, although I'm pretty sure they're fixing leaking roofs with funds throughout the year. So I think it's going to be a multi-phase approach, but we also have to think long and hard about what is the best configuration of facilities for our district, right? I don't think, if you were starting with a clean slate in Madison Central School District, would you build 9 buildings to fulfill the needs of the students in the best manner possible? Probably not, right? It's probably not the best configuration. Can we meet all of our students' needs currently with our current facility configuration? Maybe, but right now, kids are coming into mums and they're not all in the same playing field, right? There's a lot of disparities between kids that are coming in, and a lot of that can be, traced back to what town they came from, right? And that's not fair for all the kids in our district. So we're gonna have to have some tough conversations about, strategic investments in facilities.
Yeah, and speaking of kind of disparities in education in the district, probably aware that there have been changes in special education as mandated by Act 173. And there has been increasing demand for these kind of special education services. So how do you think that you would balance special education needs with other demands on public schools?
Yeah. So I think Act 173 has done some really good things. One is sort of expanded the definition and not used sort of the traditional special ed criterion, and uses, the criterion of the kids who need additional assistance. Could be a non-native English speaker, it could be someone with some behavioral challenges, right? It could be all sorts of things, right? So it sort of broadens the net there. And then it also, rather than the reimbursement model where we get paid back a certain percent of what we spend on special education, it's a grant-based model, which is based on our population, or census-based model. And so we get a little bit more flexibility in how we can spend those funds, which I think is great. In fiscal year 24, our grant, census-based grant, is about $400,000 more than the previous year. And I think that those funds should probably go first to try to fill the vacancies that we have in special education in our district. Because if we leave special education needs unmet, at the very least, the kids whose needs we aren't meeting are significantly affected. And at the very worst, it could lead to disruption across whole classrooms or multiple classrooms, right? So it's in everyone's best interest to make sure that all the special education needs are met as best as we can, and for every student, and not just the ones that are on IEPs or that need additional literacy support or second language learning support. So I don't think it's necessarily about, taking from one area of the budget so that we can fully fund special ed. I think it's really about thinking about the whole system and making sure everyone is supported with all the resources that we have. So.
Right, and that's all of the prepared questions that we have for today. So if there's anything you'd like to say in closing.
Yeah, I just want, Addison Central voters to know that I'm going to be open and willing to hear, multiple points of view and multiple perspectives. I know my perspectives are, very specific to the schools my kids have attended, and and I don't have the perspective of everyone in the district, in every town in the district. So, but I'm definitely open to learning and hearing. And I'm not coming in with any fixed or set agenda or fixed solution that I think is absolutely the right thing to do. So my approach is just going to be open and honest, sometimes maybe brutally honest and blunt, but that's just how I am. So
Thank you so much for that.
thanks, Nargis.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. That was me talking to Jason Chance, and just a reminder to get out there and vote on town meeting day.